Hello friends, welcome to VOWIAS. Welcome to the Prelims test series discussion, and this is test 6 of the Prelims, and this is part 1 where we will discuss the first 30 questions. Now let us quickly begin the discussion. So the first question is on the Macaulay Minute. So as you all know, the Macaulay Minute in fact is one of the most important educational reform, or it's an important move in the field of education during the time of the British. The Macaulay Minute, in fact, has ended the controversy between Anglicist and Orientalist. So, this Macaulay Minute favored Anglicist, that means the English teaching over the traditional, or you can say the teaching in the local language. You can just say that. And English was made a medium of instruction. It has become the medium of instruction, and few English schools and colleges were opened instead of the several elementary schools which focus on the local language, and thus the mass education is neglected during this time. The British, using this Macaulay Minute, they were creating a class which are Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, opinion, and intellect. So the downward infiltration theory, it also came into being. Okay, the downward infiltration theory and the English education. Next, the second question is on the virtual private network, the VPN. So the Indian CERT, which is under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, has issued directives that we need VPN provider to store user data for 5 years. So VPN, if you see, it is the encrypted connection on internet from device to network. Encrypted connection on internet from device to network, and it helps users to hide their browsing history, IP address location, web activities, etc. So VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. So why the government has issued the directives is that they need to store validated customer names, physical addresses, email IDs, phone numbers, and reason for using the service, along with the dates and the ownership pattern. So why this is done is to basically limit the cybercrime in the country, because in the internet there is anonymity, and this anonymity is leading to more and more cybercrimes. So CERT is the nodal agency to issue directives for VPN providers for cyber security threats or to boost cyber security infrastructure. This is about the virtual private network. Next, the Simon Commission. Simon Commission is appointed by the British, and it talks about the constitutional reforms. All the members selected were Englishmen. The Liberal Federation, led by Tej Bahadur Supru, called for the boycott of this Simon Commission. Hindu Mahasabha and section of Muslim League, in fact, supported the call for boycott. The Indian National Congress made it a popular movement. So the Congress resolved on the boycott of Madras session. They have passed the resolution in December 1927, and Jawaharlal Nehru, in fact, succeeded in passing the snap resolution declaring complete independence, that is Purna Swaraj, as the goal of Congress. They have a 2-volume report in May 1930 which proposed the abolition of diarchy and set up representative government in the provinces which should be given autonomy. But here they didn't mention the dominion status. Okay, so the Simon Commission is again another important event headed by Simon. This is basically to study the diarchy which was introduced by the 1919 Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Next, the fourth question is on the Queen's Proclamation. So Queen's Proclamation, it came into being on the 1st of November 1858. So this actually came into being to satisfy the Indians, because the 1857 War of Indian Independence, it has proved to be fatal for the British. So the British wanted to satisfy Indians, and they have brought in this Queen's Proclamation. So in this it said that India would be governed by and in the name of British monarch through the Secretary of the State. It is announced by Lord Canning, and at this Allahabad Darbar, the Governor General got additional title as Viceroy. And the era of annexation and expansionism has ended with this Queen's Proclamation. Indian states were to recognize paramountcy of the British Crown and to be treated as parts of a single church. So India, in fact, became part of the British monarchy. Indians were promised the freedom of religion, the promised equality and impartial protection under the laws to Indians, and equal opportunities in the government services irrespective of the race and creed. They promised that the old Indian rights, customs, practices would be given due regard while framing and administering the law. But as we all know, nothing was changed. Nothing actually changed even after this. There was discrimination. There was discrimination, lack of respect to the Indian traditions and all. So systematically, they tried, in fact, to destroy the local cultures. Next, the fifth question is on the Quit India movement. So the Quit India movement, it was launched after the failure of the Cripps mission. The Congress announced the Quit India movement in August 1942. Remember this, August 1942, and refused to help the British in the war. The British imprisoned Congress leadership after this. The Quit India movement clarified that now there was no distinction between people of British India and the states. Every Indian was to participate in the mass struggle. All Indian state people's conference meeting was convened along with the Congress session at Bombay that announced the commencement of the movement. The Communist Party of India, after involvement of Russia in the war in December 1941, did not support the Quit India movement, and this in fact is one of the black mark on the Communist Party of India, because they said that the people's war, they said in fact it is their people's war strategy. Even other parties like Muslim League, the Hindu Mahasabha were also against this Quit India movement. Next, the sixth question is on the members of the Constituent Assembly. The members of the Constituent Assembly were both elected as well as nominated. They were chosen on the basis of provincial election in 1946. Besides members were sent by provinces of the British India, the Constituent Assembly also had representatives from the princely states as well. Though Muslim League boycotted, but the Constituent Assembly still was formed with the people who are there in the India. It had no representation from the Pakistan. Objective resolution was passed by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So he passed this objective resolution, and later this objective resolution, it came to be known as the preamble. So this objective resolution was passed as was passed in the Constituent Assembly's first session. This is basically to reflect the aims. This is basically to direct the Constituent Assembly. This is basically to ensure that the Constituent Assembly will get a direction in which they have to travel. Because this objective resolution contains the aims, ambitions, and also the objectives of the Constitution. So this is about the Constituent Assembly. Next, the seventh question is on the Pitt's India Act of 1784. The Pitt's India Act of 1784, if you see, it is to set control of the British government on the company's affairs. The company's territories in India were termed as the British possessions, and subordinated Bombay and Madras presidencies to the Bengal in the question of war, diplomacy, and revenue. That's why this is very important. It has set up a Department of State in England, or the Board of Control, to control the policies of the Court of Directors, and this introduced a dual system of government. The Board of Control, it consists of Chancellor of the Exchequer, the Secretary of State, the 4 members of Privy Council, to exercise the control over companies' civil, military, and revenue affairs. All dispatches were to be approved by the board. Thus a dual system came into being. It saved companies' monopoly on Indian and Chinese trade, and the directors had the right of appointing and dismissing officials in India. So this is about this Pitt's India Act. Next, the 8th question is on the important newspapers. Swadeshi Mitran. Swadeshi Mitran is the first Tamil newspaper published in India, and it is widely circulated in the upper and lower Burma, Ceylon, Penang, Singapore. It was set up in 1882 by G.S. Iyer, G. Subramaniam Iyer. It is the largest advertiser in England and America, and it prefers Swadeshi Mitran as the medium for advertisements. Next, Amrita Bazar Patrika by Sisir Kumar Ghosh and Motilal Ghosh. They two are the brothers. This Amrita Bazar Patrika, so it was targeted under this Vernacular Press Act, and overnight it has turned into an English newspaper. That is its greatness, and that's why we remember this. Next, Kesav Chandra Sen started the Indian Mirror. Indian Mirror was started by Kesav Chandra Sen, which is a fortnightly under the patronage of Devendranath Tagore, with renowned barrister Manmohan Ghosh as an editor. Narendranath Sen also contributed to this paper. Voice of India was started by Dadabhai Naoroji, and he is a leading nationalist author and spokesman. He is the first Indian to be elected to the membership in the British Parliament. Voice of India by Naoroji. Okay, so this is a see all the newspapers, important newspapers, and the person who started it is very important. Okay, so just remember this, especially the newspaper started by Gandhi, Ambedkar. They are very important from the examination point of view. Next, the ninth question is on the Theosophical Society in New York. It was founded by Madam H.P. Blavatsky and Colonel M.S. Alcott, and this is inspired by the Indian thought and culture in 1875. In 1882, they shift the headquarters to Adyar, which is in the outskirts of Madras. It preaches that the special relationship could be established between a person's soul and God by the contemplation, prayer, revelation, etc. It accepted Hindu beliefs in the reincarnation and karma and drew inspiration from Upanishads, Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. The aim is to work for universal brotherhood without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, color. It sought to investigate unexplained laws of power, unexplained laws of nature and power latent in the man. It came to be allied with the Hindu Renaissance plus Arya Samaj as well. It opposed child marriage and caste discrimination and proposed improvement in the condition of the widows. In India, it became popular with the election of Annie Besant as its president after the death of Alcott in 1907. So this is about the Theosophical Society. Next, the 10th question is on the Morlamento reforms. The Morlamento reforms basically is to divide the nationalist rank and to check the growing unity among the Indians by encouraging the growth of Muslim communalism. So if you see, because after the 1857 War of Indian Independence, there is this huge change in the way the British actually took steps. They in fact started this divide and rule to divide both Hindus and Muslims. And under this Morlamento reforms, the separate electorate was given to the Muslims. That is one of the important thing. Separate electorate was given to the Muslim candidates. Only Muslims can vote for these Muslim candidates in these reserved constituencies. Out of the 27 elected members in the Governor General's Executive Council, 6 were to be elected by the big landlords and 2 by the British capitalists. So overall, they try to divide from all the angles, you can say. Montagu was the Secretary of State between 17 and 22. So during Montagu, we got this Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, and Morlamento reforms we got in 1909 itself. Okay, so just remember these basic facts. Next, the 11th question. Annie Besant came to India in 1893 to work for Theosophical Society. In early 1915, she launched a campaign through her 2 newspapers, New India and Commonweal. Remember, New India and Commonweal are the newspapers of Annie Besant, and organized meetings for the demand of self-government, in fact, on the lines of other white colonies. And she founded her league in September 1916. It is called the Home Rule League, and most of the works were carried on by Annie Besant and her lieutenants Arundale, C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer, B.P. Vadia from the headquarters at Adyar. And Annie Besant is the first woman president of Indian National Congress. First Indian woman is Sarojini Naidu, but first woman to head the Indian National Congress is Annie Besant, and she presided the Congress session of 1917 at Calcutta, and she is the president of 1916 Lucknow session is Ambika Mazumdar. So this Lucknow session is famous because the moderates and the extremists again they came together. Next, the 12th question is on the Treaty of Sugauli. Treaty of Sugauli is between India and Nepal. So recently we had a lot of differences with regarding to the river of Kalapani and all. So that's why this Treaty of Sugauli was in use. In October 1814, a border clash between the border police of India and Nepal led to open war, and this ended the Treaty of Sagoli in 1816. And this ended in the Treaty of Sagoli in 1816. So as per this treaty, Nepal is accepted to the British resident. Nepal ceded Garhwal and Kumaon and the abandoned claims to Terai. Nepal also withdrew from Sikkim. So this agreement brought many advantages to the British. The British Empire has now reached Himalayas. It got better facilities for trade with Central Asia. It acquired the sites, especially these hill stations like Shimla, Mussoorie and Nainital, and Gorkhas joined the British army in large numbers. So that's why the Treaty of Sagoli is very important for Nepal and India. Whenever, even in IR, if we write an answer with regarding to the India-Nepal relations, you cannot finish the answer without writing about this Treaty of Sagoli. Next, the 13th question. It is on the Sachipata Banerjee, who is a social worker and leader of the Brahmo Samaj, and he is very famous for his work towards the women's rights and education and also the labor welfare in India. He founded various schools for the education of girls as well as the widows. He joined Brahmo Samaj in 1861 and he set up the Working Men's Club in 1870 and brought out monthly journal the Bharat Sramjeebi from educated workers. He is the member of temperance movement in India. Next, the 14th question is on the MP lad rules. So under this MP lad scheme, the MPs will get money every year. Okay, they will get money every year so that they can use that money for the development of their constituencies. So recently, this MP lad rules were revised by the Ministry of Finance and its interest will be deposited in the Consolidated Fund of India. So far, the interest accrued on the fund will be used to be added to this MP lad account itself, but now it will add to the Consolidated Fund of India. So MP lad is the central sector scheme to enable MPs to recommend developmental works and creation of the assets in their local constituency, like the drinking water, primary education, health, sanitation, roads, etc. Every year the MPs will get 5 crores in 2 installments of 2.5 crore each. It is a non-lapsable fund. That means the fund will not, if let's say the fund of 5 crore is given for that year, and if the works are not finished in an area, then this 5 crore, it will not get lapsed. It will be carried on to the next year. This is called non-lapsable fund. The Lok Sabha MPs have to recommend the district authorities, have to recommend this project to the district authorities, and they will carry on the process and they will work on it. While the Rajya Sabha MPs, they can spend money from the state they represent. Okay, that means Lok Sabha MP has to spend only in their constituency, whereas the Rajya Sabha MP can spend anywhere in the state or from the state from which he got elected. But when we talk about the nominated members of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, they can recommend the works anywhere in the country, the nominated members especially. Okay, so just note these small differences. The policy formulation and implementation is done by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MOSPI. Next, the Vernacular Press Act of 1878. The Vernacular Press Act of 1878 is directed against the Indian newspapers, and it was passed in secrecy at the single sitting of Imperial Legislative Council. It allowed confiscation of printing press if the government believed that the press is publishing seditious material and floated official warning. It was repealed in 1881 by Lord Ripon. As we all know, Amrita Bazar Patrika overnight has turned into a English newspaper because of this Vernacular Press Act. It was introduced during the time of Lord Lytton. Next, the 16th question is on the Lahore session of 1929. So after the Simon Commission, the demand for the self-rule has increased. So in this Lahore session is a very important session when we talk about the Indian independence movement. In this Lahore session, Jawaharlal Nehru was elected as the president. 3 out of 18 provincial Congress committees wanted Jawaharlal Nehru to be the president, but recognizing the upsurge of youth who made glorious success of the Simon Commission boycott, Gandhi supported Nehru as the president directly. In spite of the opposition from the provincial Congress committees, Jawaharlal Nehru was still made the president by Gandhi. The first task set by the Congress for itself is organizing public meeting all over the country on 26th of January, and this 26th of January will be celebrated as the independence. and independence pledge would be taken by all the members. The Lahore session of the Congress authorized the working committees to launch the civil disobedience movement, including non-payment of taxes. It called upon all the members of the legislature to resign their seats. Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, Satyamurthy, and they pressed for the Purna Swaraj, that means complete independence, as the goal of Congress on 19th of December 1929, and INC, the Indian National Congress, has passed the resolution on this Purna Swaraj. That's why this Lahore session is an important session when we talk about Indian independence. Next, the Indigo Revolt of 1859-60. So these small revolts, these are also very important from the examination point of view. So they might ask this in the matching, or they can directly give you a statement based question. The Indigo Revolt of 1859-60 is by the indigo planters, is because the indigo planters, that means mostly the Europeans, they compelled the tenants who are Indians to grow indigo, and they processed these indigo in the factories in rural areas. The planters forced peasants to take a meager amount as an advance. The planters resorted to reign of terror to coerce peasants. They hired and maintained bunds of lathials, that means armed retainers, for this purpose. The planters were above the law. So the discontent indigo growers in the Bengal boiled over in the autumn in 1859, when their case seemed to get government support beginning, and this beginning was made by Digambar Biswas and Vishnu Biswas, who are the ex-employees of the planter, and they gave up cultivation. Indigo strikes spread rapidly to other areas, and the peasants refused to take advances and enter into contracts, sow indigo, and defended themselves from the planters with whatever weapon that came to hand. The planters threatened the riots with eviction or enhancement of the rent. And so the riots actually went on this rent strike. Indigo revolt succeeded due to its initiative, cooperation, and discipline of the riots, and unity among Hindu and Muslim peasants. Even the Christian missionaries extended their support. The government also set up this Indigo Commission, to inquire into indigo production, and the commission criticized the planters for the coercive methods that they have used with regard to the indigo cultivators. It declared that indigo production was not profitable for the riots. This is about the indigo cultivation. Next, the 18th question is on the storm centers and the leaders of the revolt of this 1857 basically. So if you see Delhi, so here we have the Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah as the symbolic leader, but the whole command was in the hands of General Bakht Khan, who led the revolt of Bareilly troops and brought them to Delhi. Kanpur was one of the main centers, and here Nana Sahib has led the revolt, and he expelled the English from the Kanpur and proclaimed himself as the Peshwa, and acknowledged Bahadur Shah as the Emperor of India and declared himself as the governor. Lucknow, it was Begum Hazrat Mahal where the rebellion broke out on June 4, 1857, and sympathy was in the favor of the deposed Nawab. The Birjas Qadir proclaimed Nawab, and administration was organized with important officers shared by both Hindus and Muslims. So here we saw the combined effort of both Hindus and Muslims. Next, Bareilly. Here Khan Bahadur Khan, he was the head, and he is a descendant of the former ruler of Rohilkhand. He was placed in command. So there was no enthusiasm about the pension granted by the British, and he organized the army of 40,000 soldiers and offered stiff resistance to the British. So Bihar, it was led by Kunwar Singh and his brother Amar Singh, and Kunwar Singh basically is the Jamindar of Jagdishpur. He joined Sepoys as they reached Ara from Dinpur. So these are the various leaders and the centers. Next, the 19th question is on the pro-changers and no-changers. After the non-cooperation movement, to keep up resistance of the colonial rule, C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru suggested that the nationalists should end boycott of Legislative Council, enter the Legislative Council and expose them as sham parliaments and obstruct every work of the council. So, Das as the president of the Congress and Motilal as the secretary, they gave the program of either mending or ending councils at the Gaya session in December 1922, and they wanted to enter the council as pro-changers. But on the other hand, you have the no-changers who don't want to enter the council, And these no changes were Vallabhbhai Patel, Rajendra Prasad and C. Rajgopalachari. But these no changes, they were defeated. Even Gandhi was on their side, but it was the pro changes who succeeded and they entered the council as well. Das and Motilal, so Das means C.R. Das and Motilal, they resigned on the 1st of January 1923 and announced the formation of Congress Khilafat Swaraj Party or Swaraj Party. C.R. Das was the president and Motilal was the secretary. Swarajis wanted to turn the legislature into arena of political struggle, so they wanted to fight from the political angle. In a special session of Congress held at Delhi in September 1923, the Congress suspended all propaganda against the council entry and permitted congressmen to stand as candidates and exercise their franchise in the forthcoming elections. So this was done. So the pro changes and the no changes and this division came after the ending of this non-cooperation movement. Next, the 20th question is on the cabinet mission. The cabinet mission, if you see, it was basically during the time of the discussion with regarding to Indian independence. It is a high-powered mission sent in February 1946 to negotiate with Indian leaders with respect to the transfer of power. It was sent by Clement Attlee government and it comprised of Sir Patrick J. Lawrence, who is the Secretary of State for India, Stafford Cripps, who even before headed the Cripps Commission, and A.V. Alexander, who is the First Lord of Admiralty. So these three were part of this cabinet mission. And major recommendations, if you see, they recommended undivided India, there shall be Union of India and it will be with defense, foreign and communication. They restricted all communal representation. All members of the interim cabinet would be Indians and there would be minimum interference by the Viceroy. The formation of Constituent Assembly on the democratic principle. They recognized India's right to cede from the Commonwealth. The federation of the province and the states with federal center controlling only defense, foreign affairs and communication. All subjects other than union subjects and residuary power will be lie with the provinces itself. The princely states would retain all subjects and all residuary powers. And also they in fact divided the provincial legislatures into three sections. Section A comprised of Madras, UP, Central Province, the Bombay, Bihar, Odisha. Section B consists of Punjab, Sindh, the NWFP and Balochistan. Section C consists of Assam and Bengal. But this division and all was not accepted by a lot of people. Actually, originally this plan was accepted by Congress and the Muslim League. But they both could not agree on the plan for interim government. That was the main issue. And later on, even this cabinet mission plan also fell apart. Next, the 21st question is on the arrest of Gandhiji. Gandhiji, in fact, can be seen as the successor of Tilak. He is the political successor and he was tried in 1922 for sedition under the section 124A. Even today we have this section 124A which talks about sedition. Gandhi was arrested near Sabarmati Ashram for writing 3 articles in Young India. Gandhi has pleaded guilty to the charges. He was sentenced to 6-year imprisonment and he was released from the Erwada jail on 5th of February 1924 unconditionally after operation on 12th January 1924. Next question is on HS-200 for the Gaganyaan mission. Gaganyaan mission basically ISRO's human space mission. So this HS-200 is for this Gaganyaan mission. So it's a solid rocket booster tested by ISRO. It is 20 meter long and 3.2 meters in diameter, one of the largest operational boosters using solid propellants. It is tested at the Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota, developed by Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, Thiruvananthapuram for over 2 years. So this GSLV Mark III rocket will be used for the Gaganyaan mission and this will have 2 HS-200 boosters that will supply thrust for the liftoff. So this question, 23rd question, is on the roundtable conferences. So roundtable conferences, if you see, they were held as part of the constitutional changes that has to be brought into British India. And 3 roundtable conferences were held and the Indian National Congress didn't take part in the first and the third roundtable conference and they took part only in the second table conference. Gandhi represented the Indian National Congress, so even Sarojini Naidu assisted him. The roundtable conferences were held in London from September 7th to December 1st, 1931. And all the representatives from Muslims, depressed class, Christians, Anglo-Indians, they are part of this and they took part of this. In fact, Gandhiji said that untouchables are Hindus and hence they should not be treated as minority. But the British said, even other representatives, they want all of them to be part of the minority group. Even the princely states, they were also not enthusiastic about the federation. Some other facts if you see, so Ambedkar attended all the 3 roundtable conferences. The liberals, they were represented by Tej Bahadur Sapru. Depressed classes was represented by Ambedkar. And Begum Jahanshara Shanawaz represented women in the roundtable conference. Next, the 24th question is on the third pillar of the British rule, that is police. It was created by Cornwallis and it relieved Zamindar of the police functions and established regular police force to maintain law and order by establishing the Thana system in a district under the Dogra and SP as the head of the district. This is about the police and it is created by Cornwallis. Next, 25th question is on the Indian Council Act of 1892. In the Indian Council Act of 1892, the number of additional members of imperial and the provincial legislative councils was increased from 6 to 10 and 10 to 16. Few members could be elected through the municipal committees, district boards, etc., but official majority was retained. The members can discuss annual budget, but they could not vote on it. They could also ask questions, but no supplementary questions were allowed. The reformed Imperial Legislative Council met during its tenure till 1909 on an average for only 13 days in a year, and number of unofficial Indian members present was 5 out of 24. The nationalists were completely dissatisfied. The councils were still important and the despotism still ruled. They demanded a majority for the non-official elected members with the right to vote on the budget on the public purse. They called for no taxation without representation and gradually they raised their demands. Next, the 26th question is on the Swadeshi movement. The Swadeshi movement actually started because of this 1905 partition of the Bengal by Lord Curzon. So the Swadeshi movement originated in the anti-partition movement. For Lord Curzon, who was the viceroy from 1899 to 1905, it was to dethrone Calcutta from its position as the center from which Congress is manipulated throughout the Bengal and the Congress center of successive intrigue and divide and rule of the Bengali-speaking population of Hindus and Muslims. In the December 1903, the partition proposal actually became public. Surendranath Banerjee, Krishna Kumar Mitra, Prithvi Chandra Ray and others launched a powerful press campaign through journals and newspapers like Bengali, Hitabi and the Sanit Bani. Vast protest meetings were held in the Calcutta in March 1904 and Jan 1905 and numerous petitions, 16 memoranda from different divisions, some of them signed by as many as 70,000 people, were sent to Government of India and Secretary of State. Even big Zamindars who were loyal to the British Raj joined the forces with the Congress leaders who were intellectuals and political workers, and they were drawn from journalism, law and other liberal professions. On 16th of October 1905, the day of mourning in Bengal, people fasted to death and no fires were lit at cooking hearth. In Calcutta, Hartal was declared. People took out processions and bathed in Ganga in the morning and then paraded in the streets singing Bande Mataram. The Banaras session of 1905, presided by Gokhale, supported Swadeshi and boycott movement for Bengal. Militant nationalists led by Tilak, V.C. Paul, Lala Lajpat Rai, Arvind Ghosh were in the favor of extending this movement to the rest of India. The aim was Swaraj and abrogation of partition, and that had become the pettiest and narrowest of all political objects. Moderates and extremists, regarding pace and techniques of the struggle, they came head to head in 1907 at the Surat session, and the Surat split in fact took place. Next, 27th question is on the subsidiary alliance system. Subsidiary alliance system was started by Lord Wellesley. He was the Governor General from 1798 to 1805. Originally, the subsidiary alliance system was started by Dupleix, who was the French commander. The French army at Hyderabad at the expense of Subedar, and this was the starting point of this subsidiary alliance system. The Indian leader had to post British resident even in his court. He could not employ other Europeans in his service without the prior consultation of the British company. Nor could he go to war or negotiate with other Indian rulers also without the permission of the British. They adopted non-interference in internal matters, but that was not followed. The fear of Napoleon's expedition towards east was real for the British, who felt that the French could attack the western coast of India from their colonies of Mauritius. So for that, Wellesley wanted to keep the French from reviving their influence in India, and he in fact used this system very effectively. It was the extension of the ring fencing system. Next, the 28th question is on the permanent settlement system of Lord Cornwallis. It is also called the Zamindari system. So the British conquered Bengal has set up this regime for the land rights, the first revenue collection system, and it was introduced in Bengal and Bihar, and it was called permanent settlement system by Lord Cornwallis. So here the zamindars and talukdars, they were recognized as the estate owners. They had to collect land revenue from the farmers, and the revenue rate was permanent and was high. It was a very big failure. The Jotadars are a class of rich peasants. They were the most powerful in northern Bengal. Next, the 29th question is on the Factory Act. The first Factory Act was passed in 1881 to deal with child labor. The employment of children under 7 years of age was prohibited. The working hours were restricted to 9 hours per day for children, and the children to get 4 holidays in a month. The hazardous machinery to be properly fenced off. We had this Indian Factory Act of 1891, which increased the minimum age from 7 to 9 and the maximum from 12 to 14 for children. It reduced the maximum working hours for children to 7 hours per day. It fixed the maximum hours for women at 11 hours per day with 1.5 hour interval. The working hour for men were unregulated, and it provided weekly holiday for all. But these laws did not apply to the British owned estates and coffee plantations, and here the laborers were treated as slaves. This is about the Factory Act. See, this Factory Act of 1891 is very, very important. Okay. Next, the 30th question is on important associations. The East India Association by Dadabhai Naoroji. So this was started in 1866 in London to influence and promote Indian welfare. Next, the Indian League by Sisir Kumar Ghosh in 1875 for stimulating nationalism among the people. Next, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha. This is the precursor of Indian National Congress, set up by M.G. Ranade, S.H. Chiplankar, Ganesh Vasudev Joshi and others. Indian Association of Calcutta superseded Indian League. It was founded in 1876 by younger nationalists of Bengal led by Surendranath Banerjee and A.M. Bose, who were discontented with the conservative and pro-landlord approach of the British India Association. Next, Indian Association. It was the most important of the pre-Congress association, and it aimed to promote by every legitimate means of political, intellectual and material advancement of the people. So these are the questions of the day, and as you all know, we provide these Vision Prelims test series, Mains test series and monthly magazine summaries. Do check the quality of these summaries from our Telegram channel. If you have any questions, do leave in the comment box. Do like the video and do let us know your thoughts in the comments so that we can bring better initiatives for you. So that's it guys for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, keep studying and stay tuned. Jai Hind.